There you go. I'll take the Minister back to the intervention made about social housing. Just go back to 2010. The biggest cut in expenditure which the coalition government brought in was a 60% cut in social housing capital funding. And when we come on to look at the future, and I say to him, if we are going to build the 300,000 homes, which across the chamber now I think we're committed to, we're not going to build those unless at least 100,000 or more come from the public sector. Just look at the figures since the war. We have built 300,000 homes, not quite a long time ago in this country, but in never one year when 300,000 homes were built were less than 100,000 built by councils and housing associations, mostly by councils. That is a reality. Now, the Minister says the HRA cap has been lifted. That's really welcome. I applaud the government for that. But that of itself is not going to get the houses built. And the Minister shouldn't just simply say back and say, I sit in my office, I can't tell councils what to do. It isn't just about borrowing the money, it's about being able to fund the borrowing as well. And therefore the government is going to have to look at more revenue support, both to councils and housing associations, to get those numbers up. Of course, there's going to have to be developments like modern methods of construction, and the Select Committee are looking at present, but in the end, revenue funding is crucial. Because I say to the Minister as well, in terms of the HRA, the funding just doesn't go to build new homes. It's vital to make sure that existing homes are properly maintained. And I go back to 1997 when a Labour government came in, and there was a £19 billion backlog of disrepair in the social housing sector, which the Decent Homes programme had to deal with. So councils have got that responsibility. They are going to need extra revenue support to build the homes. I'll just make a couple of points about the private rented sector, because in the end there are now more people living in the private rented sector than the social housing sector. Hopefully we might reverse that in the future by building more social housing. I say to the Minister three things. First of all, let's have some more really tough powers to deal with the really bad landlords. The Select Committee recommended, in extremis, confiscating the properties of those landlords who put the health and safety of their tenants at risk. Let's go for that. Secondly, more freedom for councils. Selective licensing can work. If councils want to do it in their areas, they should be free to. I know the Minister's doing a review of the whole process of selective licensing. I hope that's where we get to. But in the end, selective licensing works where councils can actually go into properties proactively and seek out the problems and the problem landlords and deal with them. The difficulty for council, of course, is that selective licensing needs resources. Since 2010, private sector housing and councils, the funding for it has been cut by 60%. And you can't deal with bad landlords proactively, constructively and properly without more money. So I say to the Minister, there's a major financial challenge, both in terms of building social housing and properly dealing with the problems in the private rented sector as well.
Alderman Ray. Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to speak after the Select Committee Chair, and we agree on much, although I'm not sure about selective licensing, which is too often, in my view, a licence to print money for some local authorities. It's also a pleasure to speak with the Housing Minister at Dispatch Box, and I feel, in my short term in Parliament, he's got at least as good a handle on these issues as any I have seen. For me, we need to build more truly affordable housing, both to rent and to buy. We can't simply do what Labour would do and put more pressure on an overburdened taxpayer. We've got to do it in different ways. I think the best way to do it is to cut out the middlemen or middlewomen. I speak as a middleman who's been involved in the property market for 30 years, but there's a couple of simple ways we could do this. They're simply too good to miss, and the Housing Minister is familiar with some of my ideas on this, particularly in terms of delivering more affordable homes to purchase through the Section 106 system. We deliver around 25,000 homes, affordable homes, every year through Section 106 requirements. They are sold typically to housing associations at 50% market value. The Housing Association then rents those out at 80% market value and puts them on their books, on their balance sheet at 100% market value. Nice work if you can get it. Why, instead of doing that, don't we simply sell those properties, or half of those properties, Mr Deputy Speaker, to first-time buyers at 50% market value, to first-time buyers on low incomes, in perpetuity, so these first-time buyers can pass it on to the next person as well. There's no cost for the taxpayer whatsoever. It's good for them. It's good for the developers who are dealing direct with their customers. The only people who are probably not too keen on it are the housing associations, but that's not who we're here for. We're here for real people. Certainly happy to give way to the
Mr Deputy Speaker, the honourable gentleman has raised this issue with a number of times, and I'm keen to promote it with him. Will he meet with me to discuss how we might promote this to councils?
Certainly will. I certainly will.
Just say to the Minister, you took 27 minutes in the morning. Every time you've intervened, it puts another minute on. I want to try and get everybody in fairness. Kevin Hollingworth.
Certainly, and also good for the community because people are buying those houses rather than renting them, which is very, very popular locally. To give you an example, in one of my local towns, the town of Easingwell, where I was born and brought up, 656 homes being delivered in that town, 279 homes affordable, all for rented. Only 8 are two-bedroom properties for young first-time buyers. This could change that dynamic and deliver tens of thousands of homes for first-time buyers on low incomes. The second way to cut out middlemen is through the pension system. Currently, you cannot put residential property in a pension. If we change that rule, and this is meaning lots of empty space above shops that's empty or unconverted could be changed overnight if you allowed those properties to be put in a pension, as long as the catch would be, which I think is a fair